Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this amazing retail webinar. It's great to have you here. I hope you are having a fantastic day. Let me begin by introducing myself and AI CoreSpot to you. I'm Nitin Naveen, Vice President of Innovation and Strategy at AI CoreSpot. With over a couple of decades of experience in consulting firms dealing with emerging technologies, I feel fortunate to consistently engage with numerous stakeholders, global leaders, and their incredible problem solving and innovative ideas. Joining me today, there are a couple of my colleagues who are helping me in this cause, Arvind and Naveen, who will also add some energy to this event. A big applause to them for their dedication and making this webinar a great success. Let me tell you something about our company. AI CoreSpot, which was founded more than a couple of years ago, is a knowledge hub focusing on AI, ML, robotics, IoT, and much more. Our webinars aim to share the latest technological advancements in the industry. We dive into various tech sectors, unveiling a fresh theme every month and steadily gaining momentum. Our goal is to become the leading AI-driven community worldwide, where individuals like you with similar interests can contribute to mutual growth and success. We are committed to organizing industry-backed webinars and hybrid events, grounding our knowledge through credible data from esteemed industry leaders, thought leaders, subject matter experts, and our trusted partners. Additionally, we fine-tune our content across various digital platforms. We have blogs, we have videos, podcasts, we have newsletters to shed light on this ever-evolving industry. Now, coming about today's webinar for which you are here for. Today's topic is the future of retail, emerging trends and technologies. You will see the impact of emerging technologies, including AI and ML, which is shaping up the future of retail. We will discuss what is the true cost of adoption in the retail industry. The speakers will also share their views on cyber crimes, fraud activities going on and how to control them, and a lot of other topics and so on. Our expert panel will share invaluable insights and engage in thought-provoking discussions that you won't want to miss. Now, let's kick off the discussion with some quick insights. Meet our community partners for today. We have six great companies, which includes Rayleigh's, Hot Topic, Focus Brand, Sam's Club, Bob Event Farms, and Infovision, who plays a critical role in making this webinar a success. Also, a big thanks to all our attendees. Your time and presence means a lot to us. We appreciate you being here to achieve your goals and connect with fellow participants. Our platform's main goal is to help you gain valuable insights and build meaningful relationships. If you leave with a few innovative ideas or build new connections, we'll consider it a job well done. Now, let me introduce our esteemed speakers for today. So the first speaker is Jack Wilson, who is Head of Digital at Rayleigh's. Second speaker is Eric Kearney, Director of Digital Products at Hot Topic. Our third speaker is Abdullah Bukhari, who is Director Enterprise Data Engineering at Focus Brand. Our esteemed fourth speaker is Nazmuddin Sheikh, who is Director of Technology at Sam's Club, which is part of Walmart Global Tech. Our fifth speaker is Varun Khanna, who is Director of Innovation at Bob Event Farms. And sixth speaker and moderator for the panel is Karl Kapuska, who is Industry Principal Retail at Infovision. Just one-liner disclaimer before we start this amazing panel discussion. The views shared by all the speakers are their personal ones, and it's not related to any organization they represent for. So now over to you, Karl, to begin this exciting panel discussion.
Thanks, Nitin. Appreciate it. Guys, thanks again for joining in today. You're investing some time with us, and I think the audience is going to get a lot of information, a lot of thought in terms of where leaders like yourselves are thinking and going. So appreciate your time very much. I'd like to just get right into the questions. We've got a lot of information to cover. So if you don't mind, what I'd like to do is start with, obviously, we're talking about emerging technologies in the retail space. In today's world, you can't turn on the radio, turn on the TV, pick up a phone without AI coming into play, right? Machine learning, certainly, but AI is the buzz everywhere. So I'd like to start, and in this particular topic, I'd actually like to hear from all of you one at a time. I don't know if we'll go that route for all the questions that we have today, but AI seems to be so important. Retail in general seems to be so dynamic. So many things affecting your business, the way that you shape the future, the way that you take care of customers, the way that you improve processes. AI can obviously touch on all of that. So if you don't mind, Abdullah, I'd like to start with you and ask the question, how do you see AI, machine learning affecting the space you're specifically in? And if you don't mind, take it to the level of maybe a specific example or two, either of things that you're doing that are showing some promise, or some things with regard to AI and machine learning that are questions for you about how do you more accurately harness that technology and use it in your space. So please, if you don't mind, if you'd start off the conversation, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Carl. I know you introduced everybody, but my name is Abdullah Bukhari. I'm a director data engineering at Focus Brands. And this is a great question, Carl, and very dear to my heart. At the end of the day, someone can think. We are actually, I'm related to Focus Brands, which is a brand portfolio company, a QSR. So we deal with selling sandwiches, right? So at the end of the day, someone can think of that you guys are selling sandwich. What you have to do with AI, but it's very transformative. I'll say that these technology can ensure that we are having a good customer experience. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter online or at the store. We can use AI to optimize our operations and also to provide valuable insights to both internal and external customers. Specifically, if I talk about specific applications, what comes to my mind is personalized recommendations. So, customers going online, and you guys have seen on Amazon and other places that you're buying something, you get a recommendation, right? So all that is AI-based recommendation based on your customer behavior and how you're doing. Other things that come to my mind is predictive analytics for managing your inventory. What you don't want it to do is that either have too much of something, which means that it will go to waste. So it doesn't matter what you have, especially we are in the food industry, so we have to be very cautious about that. And also, you don't want to have less of something, because then your customers will have a very bad experience at the store, that they are trying to buy something, you're promoting some products, and they don't have that in the stores to buy. So AI can actually solving a lot of those type of problems for us. And last but not least, chatbots for customer service, or if I take it one extra level, to taking orders from customers, as some of the brands are doing that from voice, taking the customer orders. So all those are great use cases to expand upon, and I can certainly go deeper than that on certain area.
Excellent. Excellent point. Great. Thank you. One of the nice things about this panel is that you guys are all really significantly different businesses, even though it is all in retail to some extent. So, Zach, if you don't mind, introduce yourself quickly, if you don't mind, and then shed your experience, your light, your understanding, your questions about AI in the grocery business.
Thank you for the introduction, Carl. My name is Zach Wilson, and I'm the head of digital for Raley's, the Raley's Companies, which is a regional grocer operating out of California and Arizona under the Bash's name. Very similar to what Abdullah was just talking about, being in the retail business, especially with food and perishables, the leveraging AI to play a bigger role is critical for our business and our success. We operate on very low margins to begin with, just like similar retailers in the grocery industry. So when we look at technology, when we look at the capabilities that AI brings, such as some of the things that Abdullah talked about around inventory management, around personalization and recommendations, and then also around how you take a customer down the journey of shopping with us and continue to gain their loyalty, is critical for our success. So thinking about a specific example, when we just recently launched a new web experience and mobile application. As part of that, we've tied that into our loyalty program that we have so that we can understand how customers' shopping behavior changes based on the type of retail locations we have. So some of the things that tie into that is around how we do price optimization based on a personalization level. So Abdullah may see one price, I may see a different price, or I may be promoting a specific product to myself, or Carl, you may see something different. And all of that is to optimize the customer spend. On the back end of that, then we're able to track the migration of inventory within our physical stores. So we operate out of distribution centers and we operate out of physical stores. When we look at that, the traceability of that product moving through, it's critical for us to minimize the amount of shrink or loss or waste in which we have. So being able to leverage that personalization and optimize that and understand and learn from it on a broader scale, larger scale, has allowed us to increase our margin and also increase the customer NPS score for our experiences. And that's only going to continue as AI continues to grow and machine learning grows in the grocery industry.
Interesting. So Varun, if you don't mind, a quick introduction and again, how AI and ML is part of your daily life.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Carl. Yeah, myself, Varun Khanna. I'm Director of Innovation at Bob Evans. Before that, I've worked on a breakthrough innovation with a company like Chobani and also Sabra. I work in innovation, and as we all know, 85% of new innovative disruption don't succeed at the retail. 85% of innovation fail. That's the data. So what is in R&D when we are working on breakthrough innovation, we follow the principle of personally design thinking, which is empathy for consumer. That's what the problem we are trying to solve and what trends we are seeing. So that is our starting point. Then we define the problem, we brainstorm solution, and then creating a minimum viable prototype and then going to the market for the testing. So AI in my job, where I see streamlining the process, and retail launches at the national levels are expensive, right? Millions of dollars, slotting fees. So what is the way we are using in R&D? We created the first minimum viable prototype. We get on the market. We get the real transactional learning. That is, let's say that's the version 1. Then I will go to the next level, version 2, taking the consumer feedback by leveraging smart packaging. And then we are ready for the national launch with the big retailers. We can go and share that data. So our degree of confidence is higher, and then our success increases, right? So that's kind of where I see AI playing a role in R&D.
Okay, nice. So Eric, in your space, you've got an interesting place given you're primarily, I shouldn't say primarily, you're brick and mortar, certainly all over the place. You're obviously e-commerce as well. How does AI affect your business, and what are the things that you're looking at you and your team are looking at in terms of AI across the board? Is it obviously customer experience like we've heard? Is it more about inventory management? Is it more about internal business processes? How is AI affecting Hot Topic?
Gotcha. Yeah, hi, my name's Eric Kearney. I'm the Director of Digital Product for Hot Topic, Inc. That means I cover the Hot Topic, Box Lunch, and Her Universe brands and all of their digital initiatives. When I think about how AI is, I mean, it's kind of all those things that you mentioned, right? Customer service, reducing costs, scalability. We've definitely been looking at a lot of these different use cases. Does it make sense? What we're finding a lot is that what AI is actually doing, the scalability, it's actually uncovering a lot of inefficiencies or architectural gaps or process gaps in the organization. And what it's causing us to have to do is it's causing us to have to essentially grow up from a technical perspective, if you will. We've also seen that there's a lot of immaturity in a lot of these AI products, right? We were talking earlier mentions of like testing and learning, right? So we test out these new technologies. We find out, it sounds good. It sounds good in the sales meeting, right? AI is very trendy, but when you actually put it into practice, is it actually reducing your call time for customer service agents, right? Is it actually allowing you to approach more customers? Is the personalization recommendation model better than what you already had? And I think that the biggest thing on how it's going to change retail for us is it's going to force us to get better at managing and moving data around the company. There's a lot of difficulty with, everyone's got them, right? Everyone has legacy systems, and you want data out of that system, but to integrate that system is a lot of work, right? And you need to be thinking about those things when suddenly you want to have this AI model take a set of data and then scale it for you, right? So you're going to find those limitations as you try to scale of this system's not connected to this system. We don't have ready access to that data because AI wants to process a lot faster than pulling a data sheet and then having an analyst look at it, right? You're talking that happened like three weeks ago.
Interesting. InfoVision is a IT consulting company, and we talk to a lot of different companies, and we hear different requests, and the concept of digital transformation has been out there, but that's a very vague term. It can mean entirely different things to different businesses. What I find really odd right now is we'll have companies that will reach out and say, we want to get on the AI bandwagon. Everyone's talking about AI. Our shareholders, our board wants to make sure we're up to speed on AI, right? I equate that to like going to Home Depot and you're there shopping for some paint, and you go past the tool section and you see some incredibly great tool, and you think to yourself, gosh, I would love to have that tool, right? And then you buy it and you're driving home and you're thinking to yourself, now what exactly am I going to do with it? Because I don't have a spot for it yet other than in my toolbox, right? So to your point, it's an immature industry. There's no specific definitions really of what it is and how it's used. So I think I want to get into this further in terms of the roles that you guys play and how AI is being talked about and pushed around and so forth. So, but Naz, if we could get your perspective. So from a Sam's Club Walmart perspective, you folks are always all over technology. You're always got a lot of different initiatives, and you, unlike some of these other folks here, have enormous numbers of people. I know because I've worked with some of them. Enormous number of people and teams. So this whole concept of AI must be certainly top of mind at your organization. So please, if you don't mind, introduce yourself. So we all know Walmart, but let us know a little bit more about what you do there, and then just carry on the discussion with regard to AI.
Thanks, Carl. This is Nazmuddin. I'm the Director of Software Engineering on Sam's Club's membership platform. I have been with e-commerce, pretty much about like 15 years or so. And I've seen the multiple cycles of digital transformation. And I think, as Carl said, it's a very vague term, and it's been quite old now, to really refer to that kind of thing. And now with the buzzwords of AI and all, correct, Carl? If you feel, and if you're a place in like Sam's Club, correct? Sam's Club is like known as one of the incubator hubs for the retail industries, correct? Like there are many examples out there which um, we have really, been pioneer at, okay? And now if you consider AI, correct? It has actually opened that Pandora's box and letting you think like, okay, I'm doing like n number of tasks. How can I do it in n different ways? And how different data sets and different mindsets, different methodologies can come in. Okay. We generally try to restrict it to the classical examples, which I think pretty much a big giant software companies have really crossed, like chatbots, the recommendations, the search. It's been out there in industry, and cyber fraud. These use cases have been used for around a decade now, using AI ML models. Yes, they have been maturing, and now with chat gpt llm LVMs and all coming into place, it's a different ball game altogether. just to quote, correct, how different thought process have been invoked using these new AI tools. I was just on one of the presentations from University of Kansas a couple of weeks back. Students were presenting like mind-boggling ideas, like some of them actually were presenting LVMs, which are like large vision models, sensing your moods, okay, and then relating it to your activity based on like, are you driving, are you really resting at home, and exactly are you performing using your mobile devices sensing. So bringing IoT, AI, LVMs, mood display, everything together, and then they were figuring it out, what exactly are you likely to hear now. So like, wow, that's where the industry is going, like it's just beyond that thought process where you're just focused on serving your customer at their needs. But before that, you really want to manufacture something exclusively for them. So might be the retail and the product industry see something like that, you log in as Carl and I log in as Nazmuddin, and we see a different application altogether. It's not only the chatbot, it's not only your personalized section, it might be a complete experience altogether. I might see some other brands altogether. I might see a different layout for my website. That's where we are heading to. It's a interesting era, I'll say.
Yeah, definitely. So as we kind of segue, just still obviously staying on the topic of technology, but kind of segue to some kind of some specific areas of it. And we touched on it a little bit, but I'd like to start with Zach and talk about, AI. We've come up with these examples that, it's used internally, it's used externally, it's used to understand the customer experience. So the customer experience has become, thankfully, since we're all customers, it has become a really, forgive the phrase, hot topic. Customers, I guess my question is this: customers, in some cases, are all excited about AI. In some cases, they don't understand it or can care less about it, but don't realize that in the background, AI is driving the decisions you guys make to enhance the customer experience. And then you have the other aspect of it where you might have late adopters or people that are concerned, cautious. How does AI contribute to cyber crime, right? You look at cyber crime and it's costing us a fortune. So Zach, starting with you, you've got an interesting customer base. We've all got interesting customer bases, and I think you all know them very well. Does AI represent a concern for your customers, or are you in a place where you're going about using AI, but you're not really letting your customers know that AI is helping you enhance their experience? Talk a little bit about that, please.
Carl, that's a great question and a very loaded question at the same time. So for, as traditional grocer aspect of things, you have a scale of customers. So you have the early adopters of technology, the ones that are used to using it, and then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is our more senior customers that aren't necessarily tech savvy. So when they start hearing AI and they start thinking technology, they're starting to wrap all those things into the same thing. So they don't really necessarily understand what the difference is between AI and technology and some of the other technology lingo that gets thrown out there. They just care about getting their milk, bread, and eggs that they've bought from the same local grocery store for the last 30 years. So when we take our thought process into technology, one, we don't necessarily want to go out and shout about all these things that we're using in regards to AI, because it may be confusing for that customer specifically. However, we know that we need to adopt new customers into our market as those customers age out. So those customers we talk to specifically and make sure that they understand, like, yes, we may not be using something like ChatGPT as an example, but we are using machine learning and AI to do price optimizations and personalization. On the other end of the spectrum, for the older customers that are using our services, we're trying to explain like how we're saving them additional dollars or making their grocery experience even better. That's from a digital standpoint. From an in-store brick and mortar standpoint, you have the challenges of self-checkout and things like that, tying back to some of the fraud, some of the loss that happens at companies, and some of the cybersecurity issues as well. But from a brick and mortar standpoint, we try to minimize as much impact on the technology devices that customers have to use while they're inside of our stores. Now, we do have the options for those that are tech savvy to use, but at the same time, we also know that customers are grocery shopping for groceries. They're not in there to look at videos. They're not in there to do a bunch of other different things. They're looking for some inspiration, but they're there to buy their milk, bread, eggs, butter. So allowing us to give that customer experience, that easy onboarding for the older clientele, but also bring along the new clientele is critical for us. And that takes me into like the third path there of the onboarding process. So we're slowly ramping up that the older clientele or the less tech savvy clientele into understanding what we're trying to do from a grocery and personalization perspective, and tying that into the in-store experience and to the service components in which we offer, whether that's through chat or physical calls themselves. So the last concern is around that cybersecurity. That was that last question that you asked there, Carl. And that is a big concern for our customers, because most of our customers are shopping on a budget. And they're also shopping with this thought of the internet is bad. Customers are stealing, or bad guys are stealing my information. So making sure that we're telling customers, as best as we can, that your data is safe. We're not trying to harvest your data to go sell to other places and things like that is critical for the success of that customer. But at the same time, acknowledging the fact that we need that data in order to understand you as a consumer and make your experience even better so that you want to come back and shop with us going forward.
Excellent. Excellent. If you switch over and talk about Hot Topic, Eric, you have a really, I think, strong understanding of your demographic, your customer demographic. I would assume that they're a bit younger than possibly Zach's customer. And as a result, I would assume that technology and AI is an exciting thing for them, but I don't know, and assumptions are really bad. So if you don't mind, talk a little bit about how your customer base, your impression of how your customer base accepts AI, and how much of it you're actually sharing externally with the customer. I mean, I would almost think it's an opportunity for you guys, but I could be totally wrong. So please share what you can.
I think while our core target audience that we market to, right, it is probably going to be in the younger age group. Remember, we also, a large percentage of our customers are the parents of our customers, right? So, so very similar to Zach's examples, I think it's very important to establish that trust with your customer. It can be quite damning when someone thinks they're interacting with a human and then suddenly they realize they're not interacting with a human. And how do you handle that relationship, right? I think that the adoption curve, it's going to be kind of trendy, right? Because while a younger customer base may be more open to technology, maybe they also understand the risks and dangers with that technology, right? So still trying to spend time building that trust with the customer is very important. I think from a particularly from a digital application perspective, web, app, etc., technology is great when it works, and the customer will never let you forget it when it doesn't, right? so they kind of back to one of my previous points about it's going to uncover a lot of gaps for you, right? I think a huge use case for any online retailer that deals with customer orders is the customer saying, "Where's my order?" Right? Doesn't matter how good your chatbot is, if you don't have the right data to support those use cases, you're not going to be able to fulfill the customer's need. The customer is going to lose that trust with that technology that you're trying to use, right? Sure. And remember, the customer will never blame the technology. The customer will blame you, the retailer.
Excellent point. Yeah. Abdullah, in some of these cases, customers are ordering things and they're showing up in the store and maybe buying things or pre-planning to buy. In your case, like you said, you sell sandwiches. You obviously sell a lot of other things as well. So you've got a very broad customer base, right? So how do you deal with the idea of rolling out AI in a customer-facing perspective across a lot of different brands? And how different is the customer base per brand that you have? Because you've got, what, 6 brands or so, maybe 7?
Yes, 7 brands. Yes, it's an interesting topic, Carl. So, starting with your second question, right? That is the customer base different or same? Uh, so it is different. Basically, we continuously see that someone who are coming in for Auntie Anne is probably similar from a specialty perspective, Cinnabon, but very different customer going to McLister or other brands or Moe's. So that is there. We do have customers who go to multiple brands of ours, of course, but from an experience perspective or what they are expecting is totally different. Uh, Overall, what we do see is that interacting with these customers, uh, there's a lot of learning, and with that learning, what we do is that over the period of time, first, for example, if we are coming up with the project, right? We see that which is the right brand for this to launch with, and there we of course partner with our business side. My work is more B2B, internally and externally, so working with them and making sure that this is something which will work at the end of the day. But overall, the ideation phase and implementation requires that we go through the overall idea and make sure that this is something which will work at the end of the day. Of course, technology is whatever technology you pick. I know Zach and Eric were talking about it as well, that you can implement it, and even the greatest tool can fail at the end of the day, right? So, how do you make sure that at the end of the day, your users are going to adapt it, and is it the right solution for them or not? So, uh, so we go through a lot of exercise being in franchisee business. We see a portion of profits, right? So we have to be very careful. If we are talking about $1 million in profit, there's a percentage which will be getting as a benefit. So how can we make sure that it's a win-win situation? For example, if you are coming with optimizing your discounts, for example, the value of that is that we don't want to discount too much where we cannot afford to discount anymore, or we don't discount at all. Both situations are not good. So how we optimize using AI, and which is a win-win situation both for our customers and for us. So those are the things we are careful about these technologies.
Okay, excellent point. And I want to talk more about cost and adoption in a minute, because you all have a different experience with that as well. Varun, if you don't mind, you have, I would say, it's growing, but somewhat of a limited product offering right now. And so carrying on with the discussion around the use of AI for the customer experience, are you implementing ideas, suggestions, customer buying incentives around AI, or just exactly how are you using AI with regard to your product mix and how that relates specifically to your customer base? And who exactly is your customer base? I'm sorry, but I'm curious about that as well. And I know you know this stuff because I know from your background you've got a lot of experience with customers.
Yeah, so in our case, one of the thing is AI is in the back end on the research and development, right? So we don't talk directly to the consumer that we might be using it. So I want to give a couple of examples, especially in R&D, right? Can you imagine if I'm making a milk, plant-based milk, right? I'm talking about some of the data. you can't imagine having pineapple and cabbage to give the flavor of milk, right? So this is a use case that it, in fact, has happened. So in R&D, it just streamline your time on trial and error, right? So imagine a chef to come up with a combination of a food scientist to get that, how can you create something proprietary again? And all these companies and like my company and other in the food CPG world will be creating in future. They might be doing it right now. They understand the consumer base. In our case, if I use my example, my consumer base is more traditional, right? A lot of boomers. However, so we know that. So now we have to create a product which don't isolate them still, but we also want a new consumer to come into our space. So creating those flavor, texture to attract our new consumer is important for us. So I think that's where I can see where data in and data out. So in R&D we are also using competitive analysis, right? So if I'm talking about, let's say, mac and cheese, so when I'm looking at R&D, that there's a lot of time and effort where we stand with the competitor, what flavor consumer is liking for our brand or the competitor brand, and how can we work on dissatisfiers, right? In our own product. So we have used AI to understand what are the consumer dissatisfiers are. And once in R&D we make improvement, I can go back to that data set and see if I'm moving the needle in the right direction, right? So understanding the consumer at the same time and predicting. So if we create a new formula, a new food, and I want to make sure that this will resonate with our own consumer base, with our core consumer, I will get a ranking, right? At least it will save me a ton of R&D trial and error to get there. As Carl, as I'm answering your question, just want to
Yeah.
check on that.
Yeah, no,
Especially from
excellent.
R&D perspective, and also interaction on the retail side. So R&D, so if the food is a part of it, at the same time packaging, right? You can also innovate with the packaging. So that is also part of R&D. So once we have a new packaging, we can have QR codes and get the consumer real-time feedback. We can bring that, because this is a real food made by real people. It can be dairy farmer or potato farmer or the corn farmer. We can educate consumer about them, and bringing them to the to our brand world per se, right? This is real people making real food. Yeah, so they are again bringing the ecosystem, bring consumer to our food ecosystem per se.
Yeah, interesting. So that's a whole nother topic that I hope we have a minute to cover. But talking about responsibility, sustainability, becoming an important topic. Whether or not AI has a lot to do with that or machine learning, I'm not really sure, and I'd love to hear about that. And I want to go there. And I also want to talk, another comment that was brought up is that we've been talking a lot about the consumer. I'd like to shift gears in a second here, and just so that you can all think about it for a minute. I'd like to see, with regard to supply chain logistics, I know that not all of you necessarily are on that side of the fence, but you probably know something about that within your business. But before we go, Naz, I wanted to ask you, so you represent an enormous brand with, a ridiculous amount of success and well-earned success, certainly. When it comes to AI initiatives and where you spend your money, the justification process, is it pretty much a straightforward process of concept, proof of concept, deliverables, et cetera? How does it work with an organization of your size when you're trying to roll out a new AI opportunity for the company?
Yeah, I think it's a big it's task in itself, correct? And even to study the implementation planning and how do you really go around with millions of customers and the number of amount of the product catalog you have or anything for that matter, correct? Uh, so yes, it's pretty much the same cycle. I will go ahead, Carl, and I cannot spill the beans completely and say like what exact process we do follow. But what I can be giving you insight is like, okay, we are like more than 25-30 million members across United States. And with that, it presents diversity in itself, correct? Diversity by age, diversity by location, diversity by their financial patterns and everything. Okay. Now, when you talk about implementing any change, which might be AI related or not, you're really looking towards a targeted audience. Okay. And I think even to making use of AI, correct, we actually are trying to make a very ethical use of how you really drive your targeted audience patterns for a particular change or a particular use case. And AI is actually a very big use case in that scenario also. Like, how do you identify your targeted use case, members, and then what is their experience getting that feedback, sensing that, trying to get their retention patterns, trying to get their experience on shopping, whether it's a brick and mortar, whether it's in club. For example, if you are fulfilling something, right, you just touched upon supply chain for one matter, right? As a member or a customer, when you ordered anything across any of the organization, it be Amazon, Walmart, Target, anything, right? You really don't care how it gets to you. Okay. The more you are worried about is what is the price you're paying for it. Okay. Secondly, how much time it is going to be take to be delivered to my house, and what is the final cost to me, kind of thing, looking at all the. And from a retailer point of view, there are like n number of algorithms that have to be manipulated at the back end. From where do I really ship this one, which is the exact location, is it available in my nearest store, so that the user experience takes the precedence. All these calculations come into play, and that's how you really drive which particular targeted audience, targeted members, kind of thing, are really going to be put in a particular use case. So it in pretty much, you can say that in itself is now another applications, and another engineering science, which is one of the brands, I think Varun might be aware, like R&D uses those different terminologies of A/B testing, whatever, beta testing, and all those concepts. And it has to be very targeted. So plot that target map is also a big task for any organization of our scale.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Abdullah, you mentioned the idea of not running out of something inventory-wise, or also having too much of something. And you obviously have processes in place that are mostly or have been human-driven to some regard. Can you talk about how AI is affecting supply chain, specifically with regard to your ingredients and the things that you order? And then, you know, how is that addressed when it comes to your suppliers, right? So if you have new algorithms, if you have new ordering methods, things that you figured out that create efficiencies, but yet you're buying flour from a vendor who is maybe not capable of accepting new technology from you folks. So could you talk a little bit about how you manage supply chain and what AI is doing, and not just AI, but technology in general?
So I'm not a supply chain expert, Carl, but I'll talk about it. Some of the things which I've been involved and have been hearing in the business. So definitely, there's a lot of investment happening in that area in our brands, and particularly making sure that, so there are multiple areas, right? One is the menu and innovation, that you are coming up with the new menu item, but think of that as that you came up with that a new item, but you don't have the right ingredients available, right? So having those integrations where not only menu innovation team but also supply chain team has a good idea of what's getting built, and then at the end of the day it can be delivered to our stores so that they can sell it. When I say stores, I'm talking about franchisees. And so overall, the way it's changing is that we are building a sophisticated system. Of course, Nazmuddin was talking about it. They are pioneering this area, but from a QSR perspective, I think there's a lot of innovation happening, and we'll see that the effects of it in next year or so, right? But overall, it's multifaceted, right? It's resources, it's people, innovation, bringing in the people who are skilled in that area, and then having the right systems at the end. And then the third piece is, of course, the partnership. So we continuously working with different partners and making sure that they can deliver what we're asking them. So there are multiple areas in the business in that area which are optimizing is the key, right? So how we optimize at the end of the day, what through a supply chain throughout to make sure that our stores are not out of products, especially when we are running some sort of promotion, right? So, for example, you run a promotion and few days you're out of those products, and the store doesn't have that products to sell. So it's not a good experience to have at the end of the day. But definitely a lot of interest and investments happening in that area.
Okay, excellent. Now, Varun, you have multiple manufacturing facilities around the country, and I don't know if they're product specific or you're manufacturing the same products at different distribution facilities and so forth. So you have that supply chain challenge of not only bringing in the ingredients and you source those very specifically, those ingredients, right? Sustainable farms and so forth. So you have that piece of it, and I would assume that that gets challenging when you're talking about sustainability and you're talking about sourcing local. But then you also have the supply chain challenge of getting your product to Naz and his, Walmart, Sam's Club people who need it, right? So talk a little bit, if you can, about how AI is affecting both sides of your supply chain.
Again, as Abdullah mentioned, I'm not a supply chain expert, but when I'm working in the food industry, the important thing, yes, we have a different location. These locations are strategically designed when you're creating a food, right? For example, we are based in Lima, where for mac and cheese, I need dairy. So I want to make sure that my plant and my production site is located where I can source the dairy, right? We also have a site in Sulphur Spring in Texas, again close to dairy. So positioning when you're working in a food industry, you have to position yourself in an area where you will be sourcing your major ingredient, right? So that's the first step. And again, when we are transporting to retailer, so in our case, we want to own the supply chain. So for example, we have a fleet of our own trucks, right? Where we can go to the distribution center, which are closer to Midwest. So that's, again, looking into it now. The wastage is a big thing in our industry, the shrink. If you are working on a perishable, I work in the industry in my previous life where we are making salad kits, right? Salad kit expire very soon, and you just have like 10 to 15 days shelf life. So you need to make sure that when we are sourcing these greens, that coming from the local area. So again, what I can see value of AI is, predicting the cold chain, the temperature, predicting the route, and then it helps in our packaging engineers to design the packaging which can sustain that supply chain. I want to make sure even, and in R&D we have some tool like, for example, modify atmosphere, where I can, it's expensive piece, but I can incorporate in if I know my supply chain. If there are some inefficiencies in my supply chain, how can we? So I think there is a value of AI. We have not fully integrated what AI can deliver on the supply chain. What we can also see on the production side, manufacturing side, predicting the customer orders. I know we know for sure Thanksgiving and the Christmas time is a high season for us. That means we can plan our orders and our inventory to stock up our supply for that heavy season.
Before AI, say a couple years ago, maybe, I mean, your processes were manual to some degree, right? You had people that were smart, that understood seasonal stuff. But so would you say that AI has enhanced? Has it made you more efficient with your suppliers and then also with your distribution channels?
Yeah, definitely. And I think in our case, it will add, you're right. We have a legacy, people who are in our company who know what our heavy seasons look like. But we are also working with the farmers. I give you one example that I didn't even know that. I'm talking about the COVID time, that one of our Ukraine during the COVID time, soybean oil, sunflower oil was coming from Ukraine. I have no idea about it, and now I have to find the local supplier, right, to find that. So what AI can help us to predict our demand for next 2 years and predicting, so at least we can go into the long-term contract with our farmers or in that scenario. So I can see that once we start building this data and data modeling, we can predict the future demand, the high season and low season, and we can get the contract. Because let's say if I want to use the strawberry, right, for next year, I have to have a farmer contract right now so I can predict in 2025, 2026. So these terms are, even in our food industry, are long-term contract. And this will help to reduce the waste, if we can produce. Yeah, so I think I hope I answer your question. Of course, I'm not the expert, but I'm just giving the R&D where we have to qualify the supplier at the last minute
No,
in a
that's
crisis
critical.
situation.
Everyone's had to relook at their suppliers, and they're not only their suppliers, but they're tier 2 suppliers and even tier 3 suppliers. Ever since COVID hit, it has changed the way you look at where do we source from, and then where do we source from if source one doesn't work, and how do we maintain all the quality and the efficiency of that supplier that's a tier 2 down the road, right? Zach, in your business, so you're not really working with you're working with manufacturers, but you've got a different take on supply chain. I mean, it's what makes a grocery store go round, right? Minus the customer experience, everything is about getting the product on the shelf, keeping it on the shelf. I suppose spoilage and those things are part of it, but can you talk about, if you're using AI yet in your supply chain, and has that made improvements to, again, what things looked like a couple years ago with humans managing? I still don't understand how, and maybe you can share this with me. I still don't understand how every item in a grocery store has got a barcode, right? And so within minutes, if you run out of something at a store. But then when you come back tomorrow and there's still none on the shelf, what happens there? Is that a supply chain challenge, or is that a distribution, warehouse, logistics challenge? Share what you can with us about how AI and technology affects what's so important to everybody right now is those products on the shelf.
Carl, that's a great question. And similar to what Abdullah and Varun were talking about, there's a tradition in grocery where we touch every product that gets put on the shelf or every product that makes it out to a display. And with that, there was, for the longest time, a manual ordering process that was associated to that. So even though we knew that a product was going through the point of sale system and a customer was leaving with it, we didn't know until the next day what products we actually sold. So there was a manual person that was going through and checking all that process. So we've enabled a tool here in the last couple of years that it now tracks not only what's going through the point of sale, but it also predicts what potentially is also going to go through the point of sale. Similar to what Varun's talking about with the seasonality and getting products from distributors. The challenge we have is really upstream and downstream when it comes to supply chain. So even though we enable a technology that leverages machine learning or AI to predict what we're going to sell, we still have to pass that information to our distributors and to our distribution centers. And if the technology on the other end is not as robust and they're still using rudimentary components, it's not going to be able to keep up. So we still have that as a challenge. The biggest question that we get from our consumers is, back, Carl, to your question, is you know what I'm buying, so why don't you have it on the shelf? And really what it comes down to is there's so many moving parts and so many opportunities to improve not only the technology components, but also the throughput on the supply chain, that I don't think anybody's ever going to get to the point where they always have a product on the shelf every single day, all the time. Even the best technology components don't deliver that experience. So the other part to that too is, and I can't remember who mentioned it earlier in our call, but the technology itself is still in its incubation period when it comes to AI, especially around ordering. So there still are a lot of manual processes that go into that ordering cadence. And I'll give you a specific example. So with fresh products, there still has to be somebody that inspects the products when they come into the store before they put them on the shelf. So even though we know we got a case of celery, well, that case of celery might not be good by the time it actually gets to the customer. So that case is all gone. But a customer doesn't know that. The AI didn't know that until we inputted that information in. So there's still some learning and development that has to happen all the way down to the farmers or the suppliers to understand that cadence. But I will say in our industry specifically, there's been mountains of gains that have happened around that technology specifically from a distribution standpoint to improve that supply chain. And COVID didn't help, but I think it expedited a lot of the growth in that area.
Fascinating. So like any technology, there is some limitation based on how much human interaction there needs to be with the technology, right? It's like when you go to a warehouse, you know, I've been in many warehouses where we're trying to make improvements to processes, and, you know, everything's barcoded and everyone's got scanners, and the scanners are getting better and better, and you can scan from 10 feet away. But if you don't scan everything, if you're a lazy employee, or you're busy, or you're sick, or you can't reach a shelf and you don't scan everything, well, the whole system is going to be off a little bit, right? To some regard. And then that gets multiplied. So as usual, technology is always going to be limited, I guess, I mean, you bring up a perfect example of the fresh produce. I've never considered it in that regard. Great point. Shifting gears a little bit, I'd like to start, Eric, with you. And hopefully this is just an opinion thing, but are you concerned in your industry and what you see in general? I would like to just get a brief from everybody, a brief comment. Are you concerned with with AI running amok, getting out of control, getting out of hand, creating challenges, problems that we don't currently foresee? Is that a concern of yours? You know, the media is always best at focusing on the fact that the sky is falling. What's your take on AI and any concerns that you guys have, both at your company, but you personally, because you're in this space and you deal with this on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think I mean, am I concerned? Yes. Am I hopeful? Yes. Right. A lot of these things, you know, we talk about scalability, and what AI and machine learning are going to do is they're going to move your thinking to go find what your limiting factors are, right? We've heard a lot of examples here, right? If your issue was getting data and segmentation before, you may not have that limitation anymore. But now what are you going to go do with that, right? What are you going to do with that information? I think the whatever AI you use, it's only as good as the data you give it and the model you train it on, right? So it will go very fast and it will scale, but did you train it the right way? Did you give it the right amount of data? I think we're going to see almost like a new field come to retail, right? I don't think very many retailers today, if you just look at all retailers, how many retailers have an AI specialist, someone who went to school, learned, built AI models for a living, trained AI models for a living, right? That's going to be a new emerging position in a lot of our spaces. And across various disciplines, even within the company, because different AI models are going to be applicable for supply chain, for marketing, for, you know, personalization, all those things, right? So security would be another one, right? Security is an arms race, right? The weapons get better, so the defense has to get better, and back and forth we go, right? So I would say, I mean, I have concerns, but my job is solving problems. So the problems will just change. That's what's going to happen, right? We're going to have to adjust to solve new kinds of problems. So I'm concerned, but I'm also hopeful. I feel like there's enough good actors in the world to make sense of this situation. So
interesting, excellent point. Naz, what about you from a Walmart, or excuse me, from a Sam's Club perspective? Are there things in place that are there to kind of try to help keep control of AI, or is there any concerns that AI is going to get a little bit crazy and you're going to grab so much customer data and one day someone's going to hack into the system and take it all and run away and sell it and so forth? Is there any new concerns about how you manage your AI initiatives versus how you previously managed any technology-based initiatives that had sensitive data?
I think definitely, Greg. Like, see, when we post about saying like we have 25, 30 million users as Sam's Club, right? Uh, with that kind of a member base, you also are responsible in all the data privacy, data retention, asset protection. Everything comes in place, correct? And now with AI, actually, you really look at training your models, working it out, and then making sure that it is ethical. And that's where responsible AI comes into place, correct? Like you might have seen with ChatGPT, the initial bust, a lot of big giants, they were very reluctant to really, go ahead and use AI for that matter. But now with the maturity of the models, as well as process being put around, how you really utilize your AI, it's not like that anyone can just take a dump from your production data to analyze, to train your models, and to really go ahead and perform your learning curves, correct? You really have a replication factor, then you try to have a duplicate data or a similar data set. I think customer data sits at top when you talk about security, and then being transactional data like financial data. I think banks and all other financial institutions have been undergoing number of cyber attacks, threats, data losses and all for, like, I think now it's been more than a decade now, and everyone tries to defend it. As Eric said, I think the more the weapon advances, the defense advances, and that cycle is going to continue. And same goes with AI. Even though it's one of the emerging technology, uh, the challenges that AI brings in from even technological point of view, whether it's data quality, privacy, etc., it's enormous, and that's where, as an enterprise and an organization or a leader, you actually really look at how you define processes and build systems which take care of those aspects as well. And yep, just to touch one more point, correct? Like you guys we were discussing about the product on the shelf, correct? I think one of the classic innovation, how AI and different aspects came into play and solved a classic problem, was Sam's Club Scrubber. I'm not sure how many of you have really looked at it. It's really an innovation. It's a scrubber which was used to clean the Sam's Club floors with within the physical stores. And now with IoT integration, AI integration, image processing, catalog, and everything being integrated, while just scrubbing the floor, it goes through your aisle, detects which product is short of stocking, alert stocking, if not stocking, is it ordering. All that chain is just triggered by a simple scrubber which is looks to be cleaning your floor. And that's how AI and technology is shaping retail. We look beyond what we are not going to expect. And I think that's where we'll also have to think, even from a technology point of view. It's never to bond our thought process. Your thought today or your dream today might be reality in a coming month, or already might be someone working on your dream.
Good point. Yeah. We have about 10 minutes left. There's a couple questions from the audience, but before we get to those, I wanted to find out from any of you guys if there was one particular thing that you would like to open up to the group for a discussion that we haven't talked about yet. I'd like to take that first if there is something. So please jump right in if there's anything that you guys wish we would have talked about so far and haven't, and you'd like some of the other panel members to jump in on.
And I just have one thing to add. I think, as Eric was mentioning that, Nizamuddin, you were mentioning about as a company, I can see that every company is creating their own AI model specific to the department, even for R&D, right? And the important thing, we don't have to. Yeah, there's a lot of fear, and I call it, especially in my industry, I call ourselves as knowledge worker, and I keep saying there's a talk about, hey, AI will be taking over R&D. That's not the point. It's more of a making it more efficient and reducing the time so we can be focused. The knowledge worker can focus on bigger breakthrough innovation. So I think that's the way to look at it. And I keep telling my team that we have a taste buds. AI cannot taste the food, right? So we still have our job. So anyways, I just want to there's a learning curve where people are afraid initially.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a great point. It's the whole purpose of technology, right? Is to take away the mundane, take away or improve on the things that are taxing and stressing for the human, and let the human do what they do best, and that's things like tasting, or that's making decisions, right? No, that's a really good point. Abdullah, you were going to jump in.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think we always hear about digital transformation, digital strategy, or data strategy, but there's rarely we talk about AI strategy. So I think it's important because just like data, you need governance. So overall, putting that lens around it, right? How you're going to govern it, because you can end up with several machine learning models, but at the end of the day, are they producing the right results, right? So those I think governance, AI governance is another hot topic. But yeah, this is interesting, and I think from industry specific, right? On our industry, what we're seeing is Soul Machine is some company working with Microsoft, coming with Avatar. So that's where we are seeing a lot of value, where you go to the restaurant and you have an avatar, and based on your mood, actually serving you. So interesting ideas, but at the end of the day, we have to see that from ROI perspective, right? The cost of owning something, and then what ROI you're getting out of it. So definitely, I think good areas to talk about.
Interesting. Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in real quick before I take a couple of these questions?
Yeah, I think Varun actually brought up a very good point, correct? Like initially, there is always a reluctance whenever any transformation is talked about, and same goes with AI. I think the initial days of computers and computing, people with ledgers, people with manual bookkeeping, they were worried that our job is going to go away, and that was the perception. Uh, I think it's natural that change initially kicks in, and a doubt. And I think same goes with AI. Many folks are like, oh, it's going to code by itself, it's going to handle the system by itself, it's going to come up with new product designs. And uh, at the end of the day, we have to perceive it that AI is another technology which is there to help us do our job in a more efficient and a more better way and more innovative way. It's all about that, how you really adapt to that, take the challenge on yourself, and learn it and excel it. It's nothing more than that. It's another technology at your hand to use it and advance.
Sure. Oh no, I've had discussions with marketing and salespeople, and they talk about the use of generative AI in building out marketing materials and so forth. And they say, well, it's incredible if you feed in this information, and the next thing you know, you've got all of next week's media advertising is done. Until you go through it and read the detail, and you see that some of the mistakes that are made are just insane, and you could never publish that and go out. So you still need the marketing people that know the messaging and so forth. So it's interesting. If you don't mind, there's like 2 or 3 questions here. We've got like 5 minutes left, so I'm going to throw a question or two out here and see if we can get them answered for the audience. One of the ones that's kind of more detailed says, since the companies are creating their own models, that won't be feasible options for startups and small companies. So what is the best platform to use for AI other than ChatGPT, Baird's, etc., to keep AI data privacy and having the higher level of accuracy that can be achieved by ChatGPT and Baird? I'm not sure if I totally understand that question, but can any of you jump in and chime in on that? What is the best platform to you? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. So, I think depending upon your capital, right? Like what do you have to spend on it, right? You're going to need to go purchase something from a vendor, right? I think with regards to the data privacy, you need to be very cautious as to in your contracts with that vendor, who else gets access to that data, right? And you should definitely consult with your legal team on that. I'll say that every legal team I've ever worked with will always say the less data we hold on to, the better, because it just opens you up for more risk, right? So whenever you're going to work with a vendor, they're going to have access to that data, whether you like it or not. It's make sure they're not sharing that data with other folks if that's not what you want to do. Sometimes it can be profitable to gain access to that vendor's network of their customers that they already have data on, but that opens you up to more risk, right? Because then you're going to be sharing that data. The high level of accuracy, I think, is going to depend upon, again, your use case and the data that you're going to put into the system and the model that you're going to use, right? Accuracy and precision can vary a lot, right? We just talked about the use case where the marketing team generated all the marketing content, but it was terrible marketing content, right? So you have to, I would say you need to look at whatever AI solution you're going to use, like you just hired another employee, right? That employee takes resources, that employee takes management, that employee takes training. You have to keep doing that with this tool to keep it profitable for your company and to improve that accuracy that you're looking for.
Excellent answer. Very thorough. Great job.
Yeah, I'll just add one sentence to one more point. There is, if you're looking at solutions which are specific for your use cases, I think today in the industry, right, it's been like 6 to 8 months after ChatGPT and all these machine learning libraries being available. Now there are, like, in industry, if you look around, very specific targeted machine learning models are available, which are targeted. Like if I am really dealing with image processing, content management and all, there are specific. If I'm really looking at marketing and organization, process planning, they are targeted. So if your budget and all is anyways not gonna be, so big bang that you have your own enterprise organization for AI, I will say even in those cases, don't go for generic solutions, generic models, or organizations which are saying like, oh, I support n number of functionalities. Rather than that, see the targeted solutions which might be an expert in that area, will be backed by the data from all other industry in that particular vertical, rather than just spanning across and being very generic. So that's being there. I could have named a few, but it will be really not fair on anyone else who is out there. But I have in content management and all, we have seen a lot of real scope there, and there are a lot of products out there. So every domain is having their own experts there. So not a worry.
Good point. Excellent point. I see the clock just hit 10 o'clock. Nitin, are we out of time?
Yeah, we have a minute left now.
I just want to say thank you guys all very much. Very informative, great perspectives from different industries, really all affecting consumers, products, services. Excuse me. Really appreciate the time you invested with us today and the time that we've spent prior to this getting ready for this call. Anything that I can ever do to help you guys in any way, shape, or form from a consulting IT perspective, you've got my contact information, and I really appreciate the discussion today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Varun. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Nazmuddin. Thank you, Abdullah. And thank you, Carl, for making it an interesting conversation. And I'm sure as the audience, I really enjoyed it. And the people who were listening to you guys as well thoroughly enjoyed it. So, we would like to express our appreciation to all our community partners who represented today, all our speakers who took their time, and all the attendees who engaged in this forum, creating a space for knowledge enrichment. As I said, our panel speakers were outstanding. So and we value their willingness to collaborate and share the invaluable insights. In case anybody joined late and missed any part of the session and want to revisit it, today's event will be available on our company's YouTube page for your convenience, so you can go and see it anytime. Exciting technological advancements are on the horizon, as we know, and we are thrilled to explore more in the year 2024. Looking ahead, we have a diverse lineup the coming year, focusing on sectors such as banking, financial, insurance, telecom, media, retail, healthcare, supply chain, manufacturing, energy, utility, and so on. So stay connected with us for continuous learning. For more technological updates, visit our website and social media channels. We'll be sharing a wealth of knowledge, including details, announcement for upcoming events, and much more, which aid you in registration and attending the same. We look forward to your support. Please like and share on our content on social media. We thoroughly enjoyed bringing this session to you and hope you found it as enjoyable as we did. We eagerly anticipate more sessions with you in the near future. Take care and have a great day ahead. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.